He's currently a full professor with the Faculty of Engineering, Bar-Ilan University in Ramat Gan, Israel, where he is heading the data science program, and he also serves as the faculty vice dean. So you're up there. We have a distinguished visitor. And his research lab, the Acoustic Signal Processing Laboratory, inaugurated in 2009, is characterized by a controllable reverberation time and equipped with state-of-the-art multi-channel transmission, acquisition, and measurement capabilities. And so with that, Dr. Gannot, all yours.
Thank you very much
Welcome.
for the introduction. Thank you for coming and for hosting me. I will talk today about a special robot that you can see here. That was part of a European Union project, Horizon 2020 project, that was a 4-year project that finished last year. We were responsible on the audio pipeline of the robot, so I will explain mainly about the audio capabilities. And the main reason for the project was a robot that will be able to interact with people, so have social capabilities. And to have social capabilities, it needs to discuss with people, and this is why we had all this audio pipeline. So the main reason for starting this project is to have this robot. We were mainly concerned with specific applications, since one of the partners was a hospital in Paris, Boca Hospital, and they have it's a geriatric hospital, and people come there for inspection, mainly for full-day inspection. So the robot is welcoming them, it's just them the schedule for today, and try to help them to find out their way, maybe to wait to the doctor, or maybe to go to the cafeteria, to the toilets, and so on. So the fact that people are staying there, and it's a bit stressful, of course, and there are not enough personnel in order to really work with all the people. So the robot is trying its best, I would say, in order to keep the people informed and relaxed. The fact that we are in a hospital means that there will be a noisy environment, there will be multiple people, and sometimes these people come together with the kids, or with someone that takes care of them, is elderly people, and the robot should be able to hold the conversation with multiple people together. So it's not only one-to-one conversation as usual with a machine, but the conversation can be much more complex. Of course, we can apply the same ideas for other applications, but the application that we chose, and one of the partners, was related to this geriatric hospital, but it can be in kindergarten, for instance. It can be also at home, but this one is a bit too expensive for a home robot, but it can be in public places in general. There were 8 groups in the project. The total budget was 8.3 million euro, and it was quite a large group, so eight PIs, but under the APIs we had, I would say, approaching 100 people working on the project, of course, in teams. And we were first of all trying to make it applicable and working in the real environment. This is why we had this hospital that are specializing in tests with robotics in hospital. So they are very well informed of how to do experiments with humans and work with them. And we had technological groups, and we have the robot manufacturer themselves, which are called PAL Robotics. We'll talk about all of this later. So here we can see already some picture of the robot. You can see that it's a tall guy. It moves on the wheels by PAL Robotics. And here we can see I also play some sound later in French. People are interacting with the robot. Yes.
So I just want to check in this EU project. Was it to develop the robot and software for it, or was it a commercial robot that you were developing use cases around?
Yeah, the robot was by the company was already there.
Already existed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So
but the company wanted to have special applications and a bunch of algorithms. So we were actually writing algorithms, all the groups.
Got it.
We were. I will talk about the software structure more or less, and then you can see that there are several groups working together. But the robot was there.
Yeah.
Actually, this was one of the problems since they were in the audio pipeline of the robot. There was a problem. We mentioned it, and we had to cope with it. It gave us a lot of ideas of how to do new research, so it was good eventually. So this is the block diagram of the entire project. So we have a lot of sensors. The robot has a microphone array, 4 microphones in the belly, not in the head. It has a head camera, back camera, fisheye camera to see the entire environment, and also camera for navigation, so pointing down. We need to localize the people. Usually if someone enters the door of the reception of the hospital, the robot recognizes that someone is coming and approaching the person or the group of people. And the robot should be able also, based on the audio and based on the vision, they should analyze the behavior of the people. Where are a group of people by gaze, for instance, and by the discussion. So we need to find out that there are a group of people coming. And actually we build, which you can see here in 2.6, an entity of a person with all the attributes that we can know. Attributes can be to identify the person based on the face, based on the voice. We don't keep it in sensitive data, so we delete everything at the end of the session, but during the session, we want to keep track of identity of each person, so the robot could answer reasonably to each person. We need to have a multi-party conversation, so it's usually when you talk to the device, it's one person talking to a device. But here, we might talk to a group of people. The robot might talk to a group of people, and then the language processing, which was behind me, have to cope with multiple conversations in parallel, and to understand the scene, both audio and both in video. The robot is self-localizing. The robot itself, while talking, moves the hand to make it a bit more lively and natural. And so we should give commands to the arms, and we should give commands, of course, to wheels in order to go to a specific person. The robot does not have physical abilities. It cannot grab things, so it's only social robot.
Are you going to talk more about the behavior analysis and whether it's based exclusively on speech? There's human localization in there too. So what all's going in there?
I will talk about the speech part mainly, but from the video part, it's based on gaze. So when people look at each other, you analyze the video, and then you look at the gaze, and then if they look at each other, you understand that they talk with each other. They're part of a group.
Okay.
And from the audio, we have, I will explain about it, we try to find out segments in which only one speaker is talking or multiple speakers are talking. And then if it makes sense from language processing point of view, then we realize that they interact.
Okay. Thank
you. So as I'm an audio guy, so I represent mainly the audio pipeline. There are several constraints that we realize at the very beginning of the algorithm of the project. So while developing the algorithm, we have to respect all these constraints. First of all, it's a healthcare data, and they are very strict in the European Union about the medical data. So we could not work with automatic speech recognition on the cloud at all. Although there are some permission by Google and others, they didn't allow us to do this. So it was on-prem. We used the NVIDIA. We tested many of them. We have a paper on testing like 20 ASR systems, and we found that this NVIDIA Riva was the best for our purposes. So this is one thing. Another thing, since we developed a lot of machine learning algorithms, not only me, but all the other groups, the internal GPU, the robot is equipped with internal GPU, but the internal GPU was not strong enough. So we had to communicate to a computer that was part of the system. So there was a server that was deployed in the hospital, or for each one of us, of course, in the lab while writing the algorithm. So we had to communicate. So there was Wi-Fi communication towards the GPU that was stationed in the area. The microphone array, I mentioned it briefly. The microphone array, first of all, is in the belly. It is not a good idea. It's better to have it on the head, like we have, but they didn't have room to do this. So they put it in the belly. It's a microphone array of 4 microphones. However, the positioning of the microphone array was not good as well. So it was parallel to the body of the robot. So we lost a lot of special information. For this reason, we also developed some multi-microphone algorithms, but we tried to develop a lot of single microphone algorithms, which are less sensitive to this part. And I will talk about all of these algorithms. And another thing is the fact that we are on the wild. So people are coming, speaking, and we try, the robot tries its best to understand what is happening, but it's a real life setting. So eventually we tested a lot with real people that came, that came to the hospital. We also, I will mention it later, we have a paper about the experiment that were done with the volunteer patients. So
does this imply a multilingual setting as well, or is there assumption of, are you just working with one language?
First of all, it depends on the ASR actually. So the audio processing algorithm that I will mention, the enhancement and so on, only not significantly influenced by the language. Of course, the ASR is so we have to change. The hospital is in France, so the robot was speaking French. However, now in my lab, I'm still using the robot, it's still there. And when the guests come, like in the recent few months, the robot explains about my research rather than me. So then it speaks English. It can also speak Hebrew, but it's not as good. But in English is the best. There's a lot of data in English, but French is also quite good. The Hebrew is so, especially when you talk technically.
Yeah.
So all the technical signal processing, machine learning that he had in Hebrew, the robot failed. But in English, he explains very nice.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's nicer for me since he can praise my work, which I cannot. Okay. So these are the bunch of algorithms that we created, and I will explain the system soon. Noise reductions it's a hospital area. There's a lot of noise from the machine, from people, and so on. So noise reduction. Localization we still need to do, especially in order to match it with the video localization, since we want to match the voice of a person with the position. So this is why we need to know roughly where the person is. So we developed this one. For this, we use 2 microphones. Out of the 4, we use 2 microphones. Separation, if there are multiple speakers concurrently speaking, we have to separate them. So we did 2 versions actually. One of them is speaker separation, in which we have the 2 output, and another one, it's related to speaker separation, but it's called speaker extraction, in which I know who is the desired speaker somehow, and I have some type of enrollment. For us, it was the voice signature of the person, so I could pull it from the mixer. We need to do, since people are speaking, taking turns sometimes overlap, so we need what it's called diarization to know who speaks when. by keeping a diary of who speaks when, and also to keep the ID of each person. Since if I need to know who is speaking in order to relate it to the conversation. So I keep the ID of each person during the conversation. When the conversation is off, everything is deleted. But during the conversation, I need to know the ID is not the personal ID. It's speaker number 1, speaker number 2, speaker number 3. Then the robot will know whom to answer when applicable. We have quite a major block, which we call concurrent speaker detector. It detects if it's no one is speaking, just noise, one speaker or multiple speakers. We need it to control the system. We did it with audio and audio video since we have the camera, so this is why we developed also audio visual. Another nice application, actually, it was the first time that I started to work on this topic, is emotion recognition. The robot comes, it's a big guy, he comes to elderly people and sometimes they are frightened, actually, they don't feel comfortable. And we wanted to recognize if this is the situation. And in this case, the robot was apologizing, saying, sorry that I interrupted and go away. So we need to know the emotional state of the person. We did it based on audio and based on audio video. I think this application is very important. We didn't do this yet, but we can also do it via text. So we can transcribe the conversation and see from the words if people are anxious or not. So all the algorithms that I mentioned for the speaker separation, noise reduction were single microphone. We also developed a multi-microphone, not deployed yet in the final version. And we also developed something which is, I will explain it later. It's a very nice algorithm, I think, but I'm not sure that it's fully applicable to the robot. So it's again an optional one. It's reading the lips and creating voice output. I will talk about it at the end of the talk. So this is the audio pipeline in general. We have the multi-microphone signal coming. Usually we work with a single microphone, but we need a multiple microphone for several applications. So the audio is coming in. This concurrent speaker detector detects if there is only noise, so then it estimates the noise statistics. If there is a single speaker, it tries to acquire it. If there is, and also to identify its direction. If there are multiple speakers, and of course to reduce the noise. If there's one speaker, the noise is there in the environment, so we need to reduce the noise. But if there are multiple speakers, we need to separate them. So we had these two versions, or either separation or extraction. Then we count how many active speakers. We take the processed audio, we take the identity from the voice and from the direction and put them all in some type of controller, and this goes to the automatic speech recognition. After the automatic speech recognition, it goes to another group. That was the natural language processing group, a Scottish group from Edinburgh. And they get the information from us, but they also get information from other things about the environment from the video and from other groups, and then decides what should be done next, what the robot should do. Everything was developed under ROS, which is the robot operating system. It was a requirement. By the way, this robot also part of the project. One of the groups developed a package for this. ROS is a joint international project, and people can contribute. So they contributed robot for human robot interaction as well. So it's part of our algorithm. They are all deployed now under ROS for HRI. Okay, we do audio processing. In recent years, audio processing is, I would say, mainly data-driven, sometimes both data-driven and model-based. So we have a lot of data-driven algorithms, so a lot of deep learning, and we need a lot of data. And the question is, how do we acquire the relevant data? So we took public databases which are available. We play them first in our lab. You can see the lab here, mentioned before. The lab is, you see the robot, you see a lot of loudspeakers, imitate people. Of course, eventually we work with real people, but for training we work with loudspeakers. I can control the reverberation level of the lab. I control how reflective is the room. I have a lot of panels around which I can flip. And one side is absorbing, another side is reflecting. And then I can, and also the ceiling, and also you can see the carpet here, but I can take the carpet and then it's a very reflecting material, and like very reflecting metal material behind the carpet. So I can change the amount of reflection, or what we call reverberation, since it has a huge influence on all audio algorithms. Also on our intelligibility as humans, but this mainly in the extreme cases. But most of the algorithm, especially the automatic speech recognition algorithm, will completely fail in high reverberation, and we need to know how to work with such an environment. This is why we actually constructed this lab, in order to have a very wide range of reverberation time, in order to test algorithm and to develop algorithm to reduce reverberation. The robot was deployed first. There was a room where people were experimenting, but before it was experimented in a room which was covered by windows, and then it was extremely reflective and nothing worked. So it was like you could hear the reverberation in your ear. Okay, so this is what we did. We collected data in the hospital with real people. And we also collected the French sentences recorded and then played back. And so we had several levels from simulator as well. So we take the data, we simulate a room. We have a lot of simulator in place. And then this is the first tier. The second tier was in the lab. And then we were doing experiments in the hospital itself. Okay, the first algorithm is a noise reduction algorithm. Maybe it's good to stress now that we have two requirements. First of all, of course, the noise will be reduced correctly and help the ASR system to understand the words correctly. And it should be not too heavy as well. If it's too heavy, then we can do this. The video guys did a lot of heavy stuff, so we need to keep it a bit tight. We developed here an algorithm which is, I think nowadays it's become quite popular again, mixture of experts. So the algorithm is split into several algorithms, and each one of them is a neural network by itself, and each one of them specializes in a specific task. In our case, we try to specialize in a specific part of speech, like voiced or unvoiced, or if it was more expert, it depends on the phoneme. So the algorithm actually, by self-supervision, split the task between several tasks. So each one of these networks was specializing in a specific component of a speech, and then there was some type of gating that decided which of the expert is the good expert, or maybe a mix of experts. And so this one was a gate that decides which one, or the gate gave probability to each of the experts, and then each of the experts was, since it was specializing in a specific part of speech, they could have much better results and without being very wide models. And then.
So when you say noise reduction, is it necessarily noise reduction, or is it really kind of multipath? Because you were talking about your highly reflective room, and that sounds like more of a multipath problem than a.
Yeah, we have both.
Both, yeah.
This one is only for noise reduction. It can work in a reverberant environment, but this one is not reducing.
Unknown call.
This one is not reducing the reverberation. We developed another algorithm, but I didn't mention it here, to reduce the reverberation as well. So this is any other algorithm. I will play the sound, although for the project it's not important. For our reason, very important. For the project, it's a robot, so it doesn't have ears. But then I will talk about the ASR result, but let's first try to hear what is happening.
What we don't know is how much is price and how much is volume. What we don't know is how much is price and how much is volume.
So it also reduces the noise, and also the distortion level is low. So sometimes speech enhancement can distort the signal.
What we don't know. What we don't.
Okay. Here you can see the wear error rate of the system, a histogram of the wear error rate. So this is before and this is after. The wear error rate has gone down, but also we had a lot of occurrences in which we had zero error, which is important. ASR system, the modern one, can cope more or less quite okay with such a noise. We also developed another version, I don't have time to discuss it here, for narrowband noise. So some engine noise and things like this, which are very narrowband. This one, the regular algorithm cannot work, and we developed another algorithm for these ones, but I don't have time to mention it. Yes. Localization, this is rather simple. We want to know where the sources are. We don't have to be very accurate since we have the video, but we want to be able to connect the video and the audio. So I see someone from the left of the robot sees someone from the left, and it wants to relate it to a speaker that speaks from the left. So we need roughly to know where the speaker is, not very high resolution. And we only have 2 microphones for our disposal. So we work with some type of, we started with the old algorithm, which is from the 70s, based on cross correlation that takes into account the reverberation. But we want to localize multiple speakers concurrently, which this cross correlation does not do anything. So we developed a method in which we work narrowband, so per frequency, and then the speech signal has a specific property in the short-term Fourier transform domain in which it does not occupy, it's quite sparse, it does not occupy the same time frequency. I mean, all speakers are shifting their use of the time frequency bit. So if we are able to distinguish between them or clustering them, then we can localize more speakers. We use this narrowband, and then we had 2 versions. The older one and the new one was using a deep neural network at the output of this narrowband cross correlator. And you can see here some results that we can find. So the blue one is very simple. There is the original algorithm that finds that there is something there, but does not distinguish between the 2 speakers. And the developed algorithm could have 2 peaks according to the angle, and they are quite accurate, we can see, even in 600 milliseconds, which is quite relevant. So this one we did, since we have 4 microphones, but we took the 2 extreme ones, so we cannot work with all 4 due to the positioning. Some flavor of the results, I think it's less important, but what is nice, I would say, in the algorithm, that we can train it on any number of algorithms and test it with different type of algorithms, since we have this front end, which first do this cross correlation, and then this goes to the network. So the network does not need to know in advance how many microphones there were. So all the microphone signals were actually by the preprocessor became this spatial spectrum, and this was the input. So it was not sensitive to the number of microphones as well, which can be handy, maybe not in this application, but in other applications for sure. The next one is a separation algorithm. We wanted to have a single microphone. I will talk about multi-microphone later. So we have an input mixture, so the 2 speakers together. We have short-term Fourier transform, so to transform it to a more convenient one. The separation model is based on unit, and the output is 2 masks. As I said before, speech signal in the short-wave transform domain are very sparse. And so in the short-wave transform, we have time and frequency. Only each person occupies part of this time frequency beams, not all of them. Of course, they change all the time, but the clashes doesn't happen too much. So this is why we can separate sources by looking through the mask. So we have a mask deciding which time frequency beam belongs to which speaker. This we do by training. And then we look through the mask, and then we see only the short-wave transform beams that are related to a specific person. So we do this, but in order to be even better, we take the output and decides if there is an activity in the output or not. So this is another head of the training, so it's somewhat multitask. And we call it voice activity detection. So first of all, we can use the voice activity detection as a decision if speakers are speaking or not. And it apparently helps also the separation. So if there is no speaker active, separation should behave a bit differently. So we trained all of these multitask together. And now I can show you the results. This one is much more significant than in the noise. So you can see the mixed one. So this is the histogram. You see that the word error rate of the two speakers together is almost 77%, so useless, more or less. After the separation, you can see that the entire histogram moves to the left. And there are a lot of utterances in which we were almost perfect. You can see here an example. I will play this example. Of course, for the robot, the only thing that counts is the transcription. But for us, it's better also to hear it. And you can see there are two speakers here. In red, there are all the mistakes. You can see that the error here. I will play it soon. And here you can see that speaker 1 and speaker 2 were quite good identified. This is the mixed speech.
At most, by an alms given to a beggar whose blessing he fled from, he might hope wearily to win for himself
the night was
some
clear,
measure of
starlit,
actual
and
grace.
splendid. The tempest had passed away, and the sweet influences of the evening had restored life, peace, and security everywhere.
So they partially overlap, it's not full overlap. And then after the separation, the first speaker.
The night was clear, starlit, and splendid. The tempest had passed away, and the sweet influences of the evening had restored life, peace, and security everywhere.
You probably could hear some leftovers of the first speaker at the beginning, but it's not really significant and does not influence the ASR. This is the second one.
At most, by an alms given to a beggar whose blessing he fled from, he might hope wearily to win for himself some measure of actual grace.
So I think it's quite okay. Another thing which gained some popularity in recent years is to apply the speaker separation, but for known speakers. I will tell soon how they are known. But if I know the speaker somehow, to know the speaker, it means that I know something about the speaker. Either its direction, if it's multi-microphone, or some type of identity that I know. So I have an enrollment. For instance, if I'm working with my cellular phone, the cellular phone knows me since we work together for ages. And then whenever I will speak, it will recognize my specific voice and try to pull me out of the mixture. We call it speaker extraction, not separation, since we extract only one of the speakers for which we have an enrollment. Single microphone, you usually work with such an enrollment, so there is during the activation of the algorithm, you have to enroll yourself. How do we do it in the wild setting? What we did is at the beginning of the conversation, once in a while, we identified that the speaker speaks alone, and then we took this part of the signal as an enrollment. So the enrollment came from the conversation itself, and then it was pulled out from the mixture when they spoke together.
What's the minimum amount of that?
Of this enrollment,
To go-
less than a second.
Oh,
So it's not a problem usually in regular conversation. So it learns something. It's unclear with the deep neural network, but it learns, it's working on the spectral and it's doing some embedding until we have an embedded vector. And then we can show it here actually. We take this reference, we learn an embedding, and we give the embedding to the bottleneck of the separator. And then for each frame of the bottleneck of the separator, and we had two versions. This is the more advanced one. We had two stages. One of them was iterative stages, until we separated, and then the other one, also using the enrollment, try to clean the leftovers of some noise and some other leftovers from the other speakers. I will play some sound before. So it doesn't have to be very long, but it has to be from the same speaker. This I already discussed. So let's try to hear. This is what the algorithm, the ASR transcription was for the original signal, so not very informative.
Philosophers of education often differ in their views on the nature of knowledge.
Very good, and the ASR failed completely.
so did I.
Philosophers of education often differ in their views on the nature of knowledge.
Okay, it's a bit distorted, but still okay. The ASR could work with this exactly. This one.
Numerous works of art are based on the story of the sacrifice of Isaac.
So the numerous was mistakenly identified as lovers. Probably also related to the language model behind it. But the numerous was not completely clear, but only one word was wrong. But this, we wanted to have this also with real experiment. So the student and his wife went home with the algorithm and tried to separate their own voices based on the. By the way, they took the example is in English, but the enrollment was in Hebrew.
Meet Pam and David Cohen. They own a wonderful hotel in Alabama, America. Every room has a bed, a TV.
The dogs get a lot of care during the day. Pam and David take them for long walks. They also give them 3 hot meals a day.
Second one.
Meet Pam and David Cohen. They own a wonderful hotel in Alabama, America. Every room has a bed, a TV.
Once in a while, the other one pops up. In general, it's quite okay.
So that one there was where the training was done in Hebrew then?
The enrollment.
The enrollment. Oh, okay. So the enrollment was in Hebrew.
So they spoke to the system for.
Yeah, they do have very different, tonal.
Yes, it's easier to separate male and female voices than male and male.
Yeah.
Or female and female.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Is it easier to pull out women's voices? Because I have to say, so I'm a pilot, and I have to say on the radio, I can understand women much better than I can understand men.
Women has higher pitch. I guess that this is the reason.
The reason, yeah.
Or kids, so even higher.
Yeah.
So this is easier to do. Male and male is the most difficult to separate. Because they occupy more lower frequencies and they overlap a bit more. Yes. Of course, it depends on the voices, but if sometimes we can see that they would completely fail, and then we hear and say they are not the same person, but they have similar voices. But if it's different, completely different, like male and female, it usually works much better.
Interesting.
Of course, I'm talking about all of these algorithms which are not spatial algorithms, which I'll discuss later. But this one is only based on the characteristics of the speech signal. So they don't utilize any other information. By the way, it's well, not part of the project anymore, but we developed recently, just submitted a paper on another enrollment algorithm. But for this enrollment algorithm, we know the person that is listening. For each one of them, we have some impulse responses of our head. So it's typical to a person. The shape, it relates to the shape of the head, to how large is the ear, and what is the distance between the ears, and so on. And there are a lot of databases of people like this. And if you want to find out your best matching person, you should measure yourself. Now people do it by scanning, but you could measure with ruler all the distances, and then you go to the correct line, the correct row in this database. It's called the head-related transfer function. Right? And let's assume that we know the person somehow. To measure this, it's a heavy task. So you have to put someone on a chair and then play from many loudspeakers. So it's a big mess. So it's better that you find the best one. It's very important, by the way, for virtual sound. If you want to hear, it's recorded somewhere and you want to hear it on your own voice, you have to match. Otherwise, you lose the entire spatial information. So let's assume that we know this person. And now there are several speakers speaking to me, for instance. I know my head. And then I give the algorithm the response of my head to a specific angle. And then it extracts the one from this angle. So somehow the algorithm learns the shape. It's embedded somehow inside the signal that is received by my microphone. And even in a reverberant environment, when I don't know, if it's a reverberant environment, I have reflection from many directions. So actually my head suffers from reflection from many angles. Still, if I give only the major one, I'm able to extract this one quite good. And this we did with two microphones, two inputs and two outputs, since we want to have it to hearing devices. So we could extend this work as well for other types of enrollment. This one is still under review.
Meet Pam and Davey Cohen. They own a
This is PowerPoint. About speaker ID and diarization, for this we didn't develop something too special. We use eKappa, which is a very well-known embedding for speech signal. We use this for speaker ID, and we use some algorithms available by Google, for instance. The only thing that we added to this is an online clustering. So since signals are coming on the fly, we have to update the clustering all the time. But this is the only thing that we added, so not much of our work, but only the integration work that we had to do. Now, one of the major blocks is how to determine the activities of the speakers around us. So we want to know if there is only noise, then we estimate the noise statistics. A single speaker, then we can we eventually will only reduce the noise, and if there are multiple speakers, we will go via the separation. So we need to know which block to activate, and this one will give us the idea. This is an algorithm based on the transformer, which are quite well known in machine learning in recent years, especially for automatic speech recognition and language processing. But they are also adapted to audio processing, so this is what we use. We have a version of single microphone and a version of multi-microphone, which we can activate. Just the confusion table. These are three well-known databases. This is in Chinese. Ali, this company. This one is quite old one, but very good. That was recorded in Switzerland. And this one is ongoing challenge in our community. And each year they produce other data. Also, we can see here all the precision recall and so on. So that the multi-channel algorithm is the best. A new algorithm is still under review. Started during the project, but now it's under review. So for this, we want to use audio and video. There is a recent database by Meta. We use the database, so we have an audio extraction, video extraction from the camera on these glasses, and then we merge them by early fusion in order to find the results. And you can see the audio video works better than the video. This is very challenging since the glasses are mounted on a person, so it moves the head all the time and things are changing. Emotion recognition, I said before that it's very important for our specific task. So we have two versions. One of them is a multi-channel, again, using some type of transformer model. So we have the sound, and we have to decide which emotion was uttered by the sentence. Some results, we also took this sound from the database and played them via impulse responses of specific rooms that are recorded in Imperial College in London. Some of them are very, very reverberant, lecture halls which are very reverberant, and we can still see that the algorithm works fine. This is something that we produced a bit later, started during the project, but we published eventually this summer. We have audio and video. So of course, we express our emotion in both modalities. Also as text, as I said, but you can see on the face of a person that is anxious or happy or unhappy. So we use the video, some frames during the video. We use the audio as before, fuse them, and you can see all the blue ones are the audio visuals. So they give better results.
So with the video, you can extract things like heart rate under some circumstances. Do you look for physiological responses as well?
We didn't do this, but you can.
Yeah.
On the video, and also if you wear a watch like this, these are all. So it's always depending on the application. If it's like monitoring someone at home, then I would use all the sensors, since it will have a consent to do all of that. If someone comes to my office, I cannot sensor on, but I can recognize it by these things in audio might work in call centers, for instance. If you start getting angry about the person that talks with you, then you go to the supervisor immediately. So even if it's like an automatic system that answers, then you start to be furious a bit. So this can be used all over. Of course, we developed algorithms that fit the project, but also be more general for other applications. Multi-microphone, I still have a few minutes. Multi-microphone. So for this, we did the beamformer. As I said before, the microphone array is not positioned correctly. However, so if I want to have an algorithm based on the direction of arrival, it's useless. So I don't have enough information. However, we developed already many years ago, but here we did some advances on the algorithm. But the core idea is the fact that although I cannot distinguish between the angles too much, I can distinguish quite easily between the reflection pattern. So if I learn the reflection pattern of the sound that propagates from each sound, and it's typical to the position of the source, and things that I don't want to get too much detail, but I can learn this from the data itself. And after doing this, I can apply a beamformer. The beamformer is like antenna array, but the beamformer that rather than directing the beam towards an angle, it directs the beam towards a specific pattern. So some type of match filter towards this pattern, and then I can extract the source. The only issue with such beamformer is that I need to know when shall I estimate all of these steering vectors. And for this, we applied, as part of the algorithm, we applied a classifier, which is related to the classifier that we had before, but this is embedded in the algorithm. So it classifies as if there is 0 speakers, then I estimate the noise since it's used for the beamformer. If it's a single speaker, I learn the steering vector direct the beam. If there are multiple speakers, I rest. And then currently, again, a multitask problem. When I found a single speaker, I tried to find its direction of arrival. Not to use the direction of arrival, but to use some type of a library of all active angles that were during the conversation. And then if someone speaks and then stops speaking and then resumes speaking, I know where to look for. So I have a library of a lot of directions and all the related steering vectors of these directions, more or less explained schematically here. So I have a single speaker speaking. It's the green one. I direct the beam. Now there is another one. I keep the beam for a while, but I'm able to have more beam. But I cannot estimate, but I keep the beam for a while, since I assume if someone starts speaking, he will continue speaking for a while, a few seconds. And then the second one speaks. And then I have the third one. But the third one was in the pink direction, then moved to the red direction. But I can assume that the speaker slowly moves. So then I see that the red one and the pink one are the same speaker. Is that close to each other? Yes.
So I mean, this is all occurring computationally, right?
Yes.
So you're acquiring the data. So you can do this process for each individual speaker, right? Because this kind of looks like you're still listening to speaker one while you're already processing speaker two, and you don't really start with speaker two, but speaker two, you can retroactively go back and get the beginning of its utterance, right?
It depends if it's online or not. If it's online conversation, I cannot, but if it's offline, I want to transcribe a meeting, I can do this. Here, the algorithm is capable, it depends on the number of microphones. I can do several beams. Some of the beams can be positive beams, so I want to extract the person, and some of the beams can be negative, in which I want to direct a null towards them. So I just learn and then decide what I need to do. It depends on the application. Sometimes you go to a cafe and you speak with one person, and there is another table close to you speaking, but they're not related at all. So I don't want to separate your voices, although you overlap, since this is one conversation, it's all good. But the other one I want to cancel, so I can direct two beams towards the desired conversation and two nulls towards the interfering conversation. So I'm capable of doing all of these things. The only thing that I need to do is to know where are the steering vectors, how to estimate them. And for this, I need a control. The beamformer itself is not learning based. It learns from the data itself. It's not based on previous learning, but the controller is based on DNN, and it needs a lot of training data. So the beamformer itself is a beamformer, let's call it classical beamformer, although it uses the reflection pattern and so on. It's not for one beamformer, but new beamformer for audio. So, but this one works from the data itself. The only thing that it needs is to find out the activity of the speakers in order to know when to estimate out of that beamformer. Okay. I'm sorry that I rushed through things.
Okay. I'm thinking about it.
Let's hear. So the two students
about 5 minutes.
Okay,
so
I will finish now.
Questions.
Okay.
They watch TV in the living room, the father cooks food in the kitchen, they eat in the dining room, the house has 2 bedrooms, they sleep in the bedrooms, they keep their clothes in the closet.
This is one of them.
Next, Jack put the eggs on the plate. He placed the plate on the living room table. Jack's love-looking.
Second one, which is stronger.
They watch TV in the living room, the father cooks food in the kitchen, they eat in the dining room, the house has 2 bedrooms, they sleep in the bedrooms, they keep their clothes in the closet in the living room, the father cooks, there is 1 bedroom, they watch TV in the dining room, the house has 2 bedrooms, they sleep in the bedrooms.
Just one word about something that was not deployed eventually in the algorithm. So you want to read the lips and to produce a sound that fits the lip movement. This is one thing. And we don't know the voice of the person. So we invent a new sound, generate a new sound, but the sound should fit the lips and should fit the appearance of the person. So if I see a woman, it should be a woman's voice and not a man's voice. If I see a kid, it should be a voice of a kid. In a sense, it's less relevant to the project, but still it's interesting. So I apply lip reader, and based on the lip reader, I use something which is became very modern diffusion model for generation. Becomes very modern deep learning algorithm in the last 2 years, I would say. And so we generate from noise, gradually we generate speech signal. What is happening if I generate a speech signal without any control? It generates something which fits the lips, everything is fine, but it's gibberish. I will play some sound. So this is why during the generation, I apply an ASR system on the fly, and the ASR system try to match to the lip reader. And if they match together, then the sound becomes okay. I will play one.
It's all based on this 58-page report prepared for the European Commission.
This is the original one. This is one of the competitors.
It's all based on this 58-page report prepared for the European Commission.
It's intelligible. This one is ours without this ASR.
It's all based on a 58-page report prepared for the European Commission.
It's just gibberish, but it fits. And this is with ASR.
It's all based on this 58-page report prepared for the European Commission.
Wow.
Okay.
It's all based on this.
Can they improve on that? Have they improved on that?
Wow.
This is one of the experiments. It was published. This is in French. I'm not sure that it's good to play it here. But this is one of the experiments that was done just maybe a few seconds.
Bonjour. Comment puis-je vous aider aujourd'hui?
Bonjour, je cherche le bureau 253.
La salle 253 se trouve dans le bâtiment B, au 2e étage.
Est-ce qu'il y a...
This we published a paper on the medical arena where we explained all the experiments that we did and also the development of the project from the first stages until during the improvements along the 4 years until it was able to really to increase the satisfaction of the user.
So you had said that there was no manipulation, but there are arms on that robot. You just didn't use them, or
no? They were used only for
gestures.
Gestures. It's one of the other groups did it. Yes.
Yeah.
Related to the voices which is generated, and it can also walk on the wheels. Rolled. Okay, I think
you want to transition to a few questions. We have a few minutes. Does anybody online have a question for Sharon? Okay. I wanted to ask, you started this work about 5 years ago, yes, more or less. So during this time period, it's been very interesting because of maybe one could say the advent of generative AI and plus all of the other technological, the chips and so forth. So how has this thread of very interesting work been impacted or influenced or even had pivoted based on the other technological advances that have gone on during this time period?
I think that when we wrote the proposal 1 year earlier, we almost didn't mention deep learning methods. And then we switched altogether. So there was a lot of changes. So we did the same work packages and see the same thing, but we did other algorithms. This is one thing. Another thing that we had the luck to have the COVID at the same time. So the project started, we had an inauguration meeting 1 week before the break of the COVID. So we went to France, all of us, very happy, and then couldn't meet anymore for 2 years. It's a hospital, so shut down. You cannot enter. So we could not do experiments in the hospital for 2 years. Right? So we did all of them at home, let's say. But we changed completely the and I think there was a huge change in these 5 years. So deep learning was there, but it was more a toy before. And now we can do a lot of other things. So we change a lot of things, which still, it's something that I like to do in my research in general, try to keep track of also the physical model. And so it's not fully data-driven. Sometimes I use model-based information as well, especially in this multi-channel, it's very important. But there was a big change.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, really great talk. Thank you so much. And you mentioned so many different methods to, improve the quality. We are working on a DARPA proposal with Israel about, some teaming of kind of robots and the medic, right? And so, very new to this, don't really know how to, even start with the, audio, both sides, for communication. Is there something you can recommend out of the box that works pretty well, or some, core technique that you think is kind of like the best in a situation like this?
The situation is just the noise? Or what
yeah, lots of noise, lots of chaos, lots of different people talking, screaming. Imagine you have to, have one robot, one medic with all the surrounding chaos of a, of a, I don't know, gunfight,
Sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, exactly. That was very apt.
The algorithms are available online. We have a GitHub for the project, so you can try this one if you're interested. Yeah, also other. Do you have multiple microphones?
We could put, it's like we designed the system, so we kind of start from scratch. We can kind of choose what we want to use, so it's just, looking if you have any recommendation for something that works pretty well out of the box.
Well, I think this one you can try since they are available and you can download them. I would go for multi-microphone. I think it is better. Still more robust, I would say, since the single microphone works perfect, but if you're out of data, then it might be problematic.
We have a question online when you're done. Just
okay, but we can talk offline and then I can send you some algorithms if you're interested.
So Julie asked, have they started testing this with cameras for patient intake and diagnoses yet?
We had in the hospital, these are volunteer. What you see here, she's a volunteer patient. So she goes regularly to this hospital, but she volunteered. There are a bunch of volunteers that came to the hospital. Now the project is over, but it still is used in the hospital, but I'm not sure they already use it in real deployment, but still in their lab. But it's a regular setting, but not with real patient.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that the robotics company was interested in commercialization opportunities.
Yes.
Are you starting to see that? Have they been able to do some translation from the work into products?
I think they use some of them, not necessarily for the medical arena. So they work also in airports, for instance, working the system. Just that they are using it.
Great.
They are based in Barcelona. They have a new version of this robot now.
Well, Sharon, thank you very much for the talk.
You mentioned your schedule is open for the afternoon if anybody.
Yeah, thank you. So